Hello, my name is Xiomara Arias, and today we will be exploring the culture of Old Fort Herrod State Park through the viewpoints of diverse guests. Fort Herrod is one of Kentucky's finest and oldest state parks, and it is nestled in the quiet, unassuming town of Harrodsburg. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine you have stepped into the park. As you stroll into the grounds, you can feel the lush green grass soften each of your steps. You hear the birds sing, the leaves rustle, and visitors extol the lovely park to one another. You may even pause by the spring as it humbly bubbles its song. Fort Herrod is often quiet like this, a place for peaceful gatherings and family fun on the large grounds. Occasionally, it gets a bit louder, such as when Oktoberfest, as heard here, a jazz festival, or a historical reenactment takes place. However, no matter the event, Fort Herrod is always a welcoming environment for the entire family. Overall, Fort Herrod's culture is extremely valuable for its family-friendly and educationally oriented atmosphere, for preserving history and experiences for multiple generations, and for the comforting ambiance that touches many individuals' hearts. While exploring Fort Herrod, I came across multiple individuals whose lives had been impacted by the park. The first individual I interviewed was a gentleman with salt and pepper hair and a kind smile named Joseph Parker. The retired Army soldier had just finished walking through the fort with some friends when he agreed to be interviewed. What is your reason for visiting Fort Herrod?
We came here for the Oktoberfest, and while we're here, we want to visit all the local historical sites in Kentucky.
How would you describe Fort Herrod's vibe, culture, ambiance, or feeling?
I would describe it as like I was living in that era, in that time. They're doing a great job of preserving history.
What is the most important part of Fort Herrod to you?
Preserving our history for our future generations.
What makes you feel connected to Fort Herrod?
Because I enjoy history.
It was interesting to hear a first-time visitor's thoughts on the park. It is clear that he values the effort being made by Fort Herrod to preserve its history for future generations, and while he may have been short-spoken, his answers were genuine. I met my next interviewee near the Grand Osage orange tree. Miss Katie Smeeks, whose red hair vibrantly reflected the sun, was keeping a protective eye on her son as he jumped from branch to branch, climbing the Osage tree. Miss Smeeks gladly agreed to the interview and brought heartfelt discussion to the table. What is your reason for visiting Fort Herrod?
Today it's just my son really likes the tree and he likes to climb on it, so we came so he could play.
How would you describe Fort Herrod's vibe, culture, ambiance, or feeling?
For me, it's just like it's calming. Just calm.
When you think of Fort Herrod, what are the first things that come to mind?
So I think of the tree. I used to play on it when I was little, so now that my son gets to play on it, it makes me really happy.
What is the earliest memory you have of Fort Herrod?
So my brother was a Boy Scout, so we would come here. My dad was a pack leader, so we got to come here and do camping and play and, play on the tree and just play with friends. And so, yeah.
What makes you feel connected to Fort Herrod?
I think just the memories that I've had here, and also being able to keep coming here and make more memories with my son.
It is clear in this interview that Fort Herrod plays an instrumental role in many local lives. It is a place where memories can be made and experiences can be shared throughout many generations. The park supports the community just as much as the community supports the park. After touring the grounds, I approached the lady at the front desk of Fort Herrod State Park. She wears a welcoming smile, has a warming laugh, and is an exemplary model of how Fort Herrod has been a family-centered place since its creation. At first, Miss Shirley Pfister humbly declines an interview, preferring me to speak to one of the many reenactors, as she doesn't believe her story is interesting. I disagreed, and I think you will as well. How would you describe Fort Herrod's vibe, culture, ambiance, or feeling?
I think that it's just a fantastic place for people to understand how they lived in the 1700s. I can't imagine having to do that.
What is the most important part of Fort Herrod to you?
The most important part of Fort Herrod to me is the big old sage orange tree. I started climbing on it when I was a child. I've always lived here. I got married under the tree in 1976.
What is the earliest memory you have of Fort Herrod?
I was probably 4 or 5 years old, and some of my cousins came from Ashland, Kentucky. We brought them to the fort. They had never seen anything like this. So every time we had anybody visit, even if it was the 10th time, we always came back to the fort. So it has happy memories.
Do you have any final comments?
I love people like you coming and finding out about this, so this will continue. We've got to have people that have this interest to keep this going.
I am very glad I asked for an interview, as Miss Pfister shares a heartfelt view of Fort Herrod and its effect in her life. Once again, the park shows itself to be a family-oriented environment with educational aspects. It is heartwarming that from the formative years of life to marriage and now retired, the fort has been a big part of her life. For my last interview, I wanted to witness and record an experience many visitors enjoy. The fort's blacksmith, Mr. Jim Moore, has perfected his craft in the forge. Guests watch in amazement as he transforms ugly screws into cute hooks that become souvenirs for children. Mr. Moore agreed to allow me to record his process of making one such hook for an interesting soundscape. First, the blacksmith stokes the coals and pumps the bellows to create a red-hot fire. The flames crackle and sparks pop off the coals. He places the screw into the burning coals, allowing it to become red-hot before moving on to the next step. He then begins to hammer the screw into shape. It takes a few times of reheating and hammering before the screw has been transformed and is ready for the final step. Finally, Mr. Moore douses the creation into an old algae and water-filled barrel to cool it off before presenting the hook to the nearest visitor. This process has been seen by countless children and guests, but never ceases to amaze. Through Mr. Moore, Fort Herrod keeps the wondrous blacksmith craft alive. Fort Herrod is a constant presence for many people in Harrodsburg, and it continues to be an old, comforting friend throughout the years. Whether you are a history aficionado drawn to the educational aspects of the fort, or someone who has been raised with the fort's influence, Fort Herrod's culture will touch your heart in one way or another. I encourage you to visit Fort Herrod and explore the culture for yourself. Experience the peace, time-old knowledge, and comfort that this park gives to so many. As time moves forward and society advances, Old Fort Herrod holds the line of a time gone by. Fort Herrod's culture is calming and forged with familial and educational aspects, cultivated by a close community that opens its arms to visitors.